Hello fellow mobile enjoyers and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we are going to take a look at one of the best tips for GM players and what you need to do to win more of your games. But before we hop into those tips, let's take a look at our question of the day. What is your personal go-to tip? Let me know in the comments below. For me, as a perspective, it will be the #1 tip in this video. You'll be surprised, but let's get on to it. Dragon is worth less than you think. I know you already want to run me down, int me, hate me, do a Reddit post and all those things for me just saying this. But listen, Dragon is worth less than you think. I'll tell you why now. Dragon is a scaling objective. The more you get of those, the stronger they become. But the first dragon, especially if it's just an ocean dragon, considering the weak laning phase or less valuable laning phase in WildRift, ocean dragon doesn't really do too much within that state, so it's not even that important. But people are still stuck on their minds that dragons are absolutely broken, and in theory they technically are once you get enough of them, because the stats they provide you with are so insanely overpowered that it's crazy. But don't forget, stats are just stats, and Dragon is a team-wide stat. So if your support is, I don't know, Little Timmy being very angry with his teammates, unknowing what to do, and is only a Yuumi 1-trick, no hate against Yuumi 1-tricks, just for reference by the way, and he doesn't know what to do with the gold, it doesn't matter if he has the gold, because you didn't choose who got the gold as you could with the Herald. Therefore, for a solo queue environment, most of the time, in almost all circumstances, Herald will outperform Dragon because you can literally choose who gets the gold. And that is the most powerful thing you can imagine. Also, Dragon fights are messy. The more people involved, the crazier it becomes and the harder it becomes for you to actually get the objective without dying. Because don't forget, losing your Dragon isn't the problem, but your entire team dying for it, plus losing your Dragon, plus then losing mid lane, bot lane, or the Baron lane, those things are the real problem. Oh yeah, and just to make sure that Yuumi mains don't attack me now, I love cats, so you're all okay, don't worry. The next thing on this list is Demolish. Demolish as a rune is beyond broken for snowballing the game. Remember what I just said about Herald and snowballing and getting gold on the dedicated carry? With Demolish you can do so even better. Demolish as a rune is perfect, for example, for tanky supports, for very highly priority mid laners, for junglers, and for Baron laners. But for junglers, it's the most busted rune you can ask for, and this is why. First, there's not really much competition for that rune within that tier. The other options don't provide as much as you can imagine, but with our lovely Demolish, we have the ability to take down towers after gank instantaneously. And the gank doesn't even have to be successful in the way of killing the enemy, but just playing alongside matchups. In many matchups, depending on the elo you're in, you'll see people slow push free waves into the enemy tower, with the cannon wave being the big minion that will chunk the tower for quite a lot and tank the tower for quite a lot of time. You'll have a lot of time to proc your Demolish and zone the enemy off the tower. He is not allowed to play, and if he does play, he will most likely die, and then the tower platings are gone. But with this in mind, if you do so in a duo environment with both people running Demolish, you will see how much gold you can get within one little gank. Don't let people fool you, Demolish is crazy. The next tip is going to be a hard one. Your teammates won't play towards your expectations. Your teammates are always randomized by the matchmaker and you have no idea who you're playing with. All you can do is observe how they play within the game and then adjust your gameplay according to that one. You don't want to be going for those flashy plays expecting your random teammate to follow up on you when they have no idea what they're actually doing. That is going to lose you the game even if you hit the perfect or pixel perfect engage. Rather observe what they're doing beforehand and then do those plays. Otherwise, you'll just be very frustrated. The next thing we need to talk about is positioning in a general sense or maybe in an objective sense. It depends on what you want to know the most. But we'll start with a general sense. Positioning refers to your placement on the map in relative distance to an enemy champion. That in mind, this can give you advantages for maybe dealing damage to the enemy champions or them not being able to deal damage to you. So let's just imagine you have a tanky champion in front of you who blocks an enemy hook. Therefore it's now irrelevant that the enemy has a hook because your ally is blocking the direct trajectory of that said hook, which allows you then to deal DPS when you're for example a carry. And this is something you have to use as a concept and apply it to everything else. So, another thing you can do with this in an objective sense is, for example, think about the champions you're playing. Let's just imagine you're playing Seraphine. Seraphine is standing close to the dragon and is looking at the enemy jungle's entrance. The entire enemy team is now funneling through that entrance, and Seraphine has a primary, perfect, amazing opportunity to use her ultimate ability right into the heart of the enemy's team. With that done, she is able to hit all her spells on all of the enemy champions, which then allows her team to completely clean up. In a realistic environment, for example in mid lane, this is very hard to accomplish, but if you know exactly where the enemy is coming from, thanks to vision and overall game sense, then this becomes super easy to reproduce in most of your games. Going from that concept of hitting like some kind of insane combo, we move over to cooldowns being vital. Now let's imagine a Seraphine having no ultimate and no ability ready to do what I just told you. Therefore, the enemy is now able to just funnel through that choke and have no problems approaching, because in this instance, cooldowns are very vital towards a teamfight's success. If you don't have your summoner spells, don't have your ultimate spells, the enemy can be aware of that and punish you for that. This is something you always have to keep in mind. When the enemy team has specific champions, you have to track those cooldowns in order to play properly around it. Because if you have no idea what they have, you'll be surprised and caught off guard many times. You need to know what is possible, and you need to know their cooldowns to play to your maximum potential, if that is what you want to achieve. Oh boy, the next one is going to hit me with some hate again. Okay guys, listen. Your jungler isn't at fault when you lose 1v1. It's your fault. It's always your fault and will be always your fault. The next thing within that kind of sentiment is, if you get ganked by a Lee Sin level 2, it's your fault. It doesn't have to do anything with your jungle. Your jungle most likely can't match a level 2 gank, and he shouldn't match it because it's bad, it's terrible, it's coin flip, because you could have known if you placed a ward. You need to be very much aware of what is happening around you, and you need to take responsibility for it. If you die to a jungle gank like this, you're at fault and not your jungler. And you'll be at fault that your jungler won't be able to play because the enemy will now push your mid wave, invade your jungle, and there's just nothing you can do. It's really annoying if that happens, but well, if you want to avoid it, most likely just ban Lee Sin. That way you get around it more easily. Another point I have to make is that meta isn't always the answer if you can't pilot the champion. It doesn't really matter if you pick up the strongest champion in the game if you literally cannot play it. It's just not the purpose of it. If you want to do so, you should practice so in a normal mode and then bring the champions into ranked a little bit later. But if you enjoy a specific champion and you enjoy the champion super much, you can still play it. Even if it's Kayle, but don't hold me accountable for it, because I could never, with a healthy mind, give positive advice about Kayle, because Kayle, I'm sorry Kayle mains, I love you, but Kayle isn't a champion, and the only reason why Kayle's win rate is so high is because people are not capable of actually killing her in lane when it's so unbelievably easy to just demolish her. But that's something for maybe later. Another thing we need to tackle is avoiding result-oriented thinking. Just because something happened to work out doesn't mean it's good. So please, police yourself and look at what has happened and think about, okay, how many times in the future could this happen in the same way, and if it happens in the same way, will my play be the difference maker, or is the enemy just at fault for not pressing keys? Don't forget, it can happen all the time. You go for the worst play possible, but the enemy just, I don't know, has a mental disconnect and doesn't play, and then you win. The next time you think, well, I just won last time, I'll just do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And then you're stuck in pain, agony, and everything else you don't want. So please don't do it. Now comes the last and probably most important advice for Baron laners. Don't try blind picking vulnerable champions. Trade with your teammates that want to play super strong champions early on and go for the best possible matchup you can get. With a good matchup, you can snowball the game easier than with anything else. And if you want, we can do another series on best blind pickable champions, so you have an idea what you can do without really caring what the enemy does. So as a little piece of advice here, try blind picking Yone. Yone is a champion that's so broken, you'll always have a great time playing him. So please lock him in when you can, unless he's banned, which happens like 99.9% of the times. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you want more RiftGuides content, leave a like, hit the bell, and come back for more. See you tomorrow, soon, and maybe even the day after, like who knows, you get more content.